Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you the things you should know about the brand new Laceless Adidas A16 Plus Pure Control. Now this is a brand new series that I'm launching on my channel. It's called The Things You Should Know, which, as the title would imply, it's going to cover the things you should know about any given product. In this case, we're going to be focusing on the new Pure Control. So what are we going to cover? Pretty much anything that I feel is necessary to cover about any particular product. So we're going to kind of talk about commonly asked questions. We're going to cover little observations that I've made after having the chance to actually wear these things, and also little quirks that I want to point out that you wouldn't necessarily be able to pick up on unless you've actually had the opportunity to wear the shoes yourself. So what I want to cover in this video is essentially the things you should know about this particular product if you were at all considering them as your next pair of shoes. So hopefully you guys find this video interesting. I thought it was a neat little idea. As you guys can see, we are in a different room than I normally record in. We're downstairs in the SR4U boot room, also known as my basement. I don't want to make it sound too fancy. A little unorganized, as you guys can see. That may change in the future. But like I said, this is the things you should know on the brand new Pure Control from Adidas. Let me know what you guys think of this series after watching the video. Leave your feedback down below in the comment section. Would you like to see more? And if so, which shoe would you like to see featured next? So with that being said, let's get right into the things you should know for the Adidas A16 Plus Pure Control. One question that a lot of you guys have been asking, especially those of you who watched my original kind of review video on the shoe, is whether or not you can actually put them on without the included shoehorn. The answer to that question is yes, you can. It is a little bit more difficult, and I'm going to show you in just a second, but I think it's definitely worth noting that in the long run, it's probably better to use the shoehorn as often as you possibly can. Because this is a laceless shoe, there is potential for the elasticated areas to overstretch, and if the opening overstretches, if the top of the foot overstretches, which is possible over time if you put a lot of stress on it when you're putting them on, there's potential that the fit could be completely ruined. So if you're not going to be using the shoehorn, basically what you're going to do is with one hand, or one finger I should say, grab the front loop, and then you can't really grab the back loop with your thumb when you're not using the shoehorn. You almost use your thumb as the shoehorn. You get your foot inside as best you can, and then from there you kind of want to just put one thumb here, grab the thing, and just pull it in. It's a little bit more difficult, and then from there you just want to pull this and make sure everything is kind of in place. There's no lumps at the top of your foot, but definitely you can put them on without the shoehorn. And as far as taking them off is concerned, what I do is kind of just put my thumb right in here and then just kind of pull them off. They come off a lot easier than they go on, but that is how you would put them on and take them off without using the shoehorn. As far as comparisons go, a lot of people seem to want to compare the Pure Control to shoes like the Magista Obra and the Superfly 4, the mid-cut Flyknit models from Nike. And let me tell you, when you have the two shoes on your foot side by side, they are entirely different from each other. So I understand the comparisons. Obviously, the Pure Control does feature a prime knit upper, which is very similar to Nike's Flyknit technology, and they both feature mid-cut designs to a certain extent. But like I said, the actual feel and design of the shoes are very, very different from each other. When you're talking about the Flyknit upper on the Magista Obra, it's soft, it's flexible, it moves very naturally with your foot. All the reinforcement, yes, there is somewhat of an internal structure to it, but a lot of the reinforcement is coming from the brio cables that run down the sides of the shoe that are connected by the laces. So you get a nice consistent tightness across the entire foot. With the Pure Control, it's a laceless design. So while you do have that prime knitted upper as the kind of core of the upper, there's a very kind of stiff microfiber liner on the entire inside of the shoe. Plus you have stiff reinforcements on the outside in the form of these Adidas stripes here that really stiffen up this upper. Not only does it change the feel in terms of just the general comfort of the shoe, it also changes the way it fits, and it changes the touch. This doesn't have that soft sock-like sensation when making contact with the ball, and quite frankly, it isn't as flexible either. It's a much stiffer upper in comparison to both the Obra as well as the Superfly. So with a laceless shoe, and I explained this in my other video, all the tightness, instead of being consistent across the entire foot, the tightness is on the sides where they can put kind of artificial structure in the upper, and then of course a top piece, because there aren't any laces, it has to be stretchy so you can get your foot in and out, so it's kind of more loose across the top of the foot. It's a really unusual sensation, and it can lead to complications in fit, because once you put these shoes on your feet, there's no other way to adjust it. The way it fits is the way it fits. So if you don't like how they fit from right out of the box, should you order these online, return them, because the way they feel is not going to change whatsoever. Another thing a lot of people like to compare is the mid-cut aspect. You can see that the PureControl is cut just kind of in the middle of my ankle, whereas the Magista Obra is cut slightly above. The collar is a little bit longer. Both of the collars really don't serve any purpose as far as performance is concerned. Changes the feel a little bit. More of a visual thing in my opinion. It's just kind of the trend right now. So again, not really going to impact the performance with either of these two shoes, but if you were wondering, the Magista Obra, the Superfly 4, the Hypervenom Phantom, the mid-cut collars on those shoes are a little bit higher than the A16 Plus PureControl. So how is the touch on the Adidas A16 Plus PureControl? A lot of people seem to have the impression that eliminating the laces has some kind of advantage when it comes to making touches on the ball and just having better control in general, and that is 100% not true. Let's get that out of the way right now. Not only is this shoe not going to improve your touch, no soccer shoe is going to improve your ability to control the ball. That's a skill, not something that a shoe is going to necessarily help. Can you like the feel of one shoe more than another? Sure, and you might have preferences, but preferences are what's going to determine what's going to feel more comfortable to you. No shoe, like I said, is going to enhance your ability to play the game with any skill for that matter. So, in terms of how these things actually feel, again, it has a prime knit upper, and a lot of people would think that it would feel a lot like the Superfly and the Obra with their fly knit uppers, or even previous prime knit models from Adidas like the Ace 15 Plus, a shoe that I was personally a really big fan of. This looks very similar in terms of the prime knit structure, and it is to a certain extent, but like I said, on the inside of this shoe, there is a firm, fairly stiff microfiber liner covering the entire inside. So the touch you get on the ball is not soft, it's not padded. The upper really isn't all that flexible aside from the top of the foot where you have two layers of this elasticated prime knit material. And for the most part, it just feels like a very thick, thin synthetic, if that makes any sense. There's no real padding to it, but it definitely does have a very firm feel. And it kind of varies depending on what part of the foot makes contact with the ball. All the parts that are covered in the polyurethane, the part where the laces would normally be, that part of the shoe is kind of more padded, whereas the rest of the shoe, like I said, is a lot firmer. It's kind of unusual at first, but it's something that you get used to pretty quickly. Just keep in mind that if you are planning on picking these up, it doesn't necessarily have that knitted sock-like vibe to it in terms of contact with the ball. It's a firmer, kind of more pingy, responsive sensation that isn't necessarily thin, it's not necessarily thick, it's kind of right there in the middle and kind of an unusual feel in general. Again, takes some getting used to, but not something that I would say is a negative aspect of this shoe by any means. Just again, don't buy these with the impression that they're going to improve your ability to control the ball, and don't buy these with the impression that eliminating the laces has any kind of performance advantage, because it doesn't. Something that I noticed as a potential concern just from wearing these a couple times already is this little opening they have right here at the back part of, I guess, the collar or little extension piece, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it doesn't fit exactly to your ankle. So you can see it does have this little bit of a hang-off area. Hopefully you guys can see that in the video. And the concern is, if you're actually in a game situation against other players and somebody comes in to tackle you, it's kind of inevitable that you guys are going to hit feet. And what's a little bit concerning is if someone were to step on the back area here and clip into this back piece, there's obviously potential for it to actually get hooked in with their studs. And there's also potential to actually rip this thing, which is basically just knitted material. It's not indestructible by any means. I know you do have that kind of concern with the mid-cut models from Nike as well, but those actually come up a little bit higher. And for the most part, they fit pretty close to your leg for most people. But like I said, because this one is so much lower down, it's in a much more kind of high risk area in my opinion. So that is a little bit of a concern, but something that I haven't really run into as a major issue as of yet. Something that I noticed about the upper is that it has some pretty interesting folds when you bend your foot. And again, this has to do with the laceless system. Normally you have laces running through the middle that kind of pull the sides of the shoe together, but because the middle part is actually elasticated, the sides of the shoe will actually bulge out a little bit as you bend your foot. So you can see right here, you get a really kind of big bulge right here in the forefoot area. Is it something that you're actually going to notice when you're playing? Not necessarily, but it is very noticeable when you look down, and it doesn't feel the greatest either. You can feel the upper coming away from your foot on the inside of the shoe when you bend your foot, especially in the forefoot area. So not the greatest sensation. But again, something that kind of comes with the laceless design. Is this a design flaw? No, it's just something that's going to happen with this type of laceless implementation. Another thing that you'll notice in regards to when you bend your foot is that there will be more pressure on your heel. Because the midfoot area doesn't have any laces, the midfoot is not being pressed down to the bottom of the shoe. So because this top part is elasticated, when you bend your foot, naturally this top part's going to stretch a little bit, and because of the way that the heel fits, you're just going to have a little bit more pressure on the heel. This is something that can be a bit of an issue when it comes to breaking these in and getting used to them. Can it be an issue for you the entire lifespan of the shoe? Depending on how poorly these fit you or how well they fit you, it may or may not be an issue, but it definitely is something worth noting, and it is something that everyone will notice regardless of how good or bad these things fit you from right out of the box. And again, keep in mind, the way they fit from right out of the box is the way they're going to fit. You cannot adjust these things due to the laceless design. Perhaps the most important question when it comes to the brand new laceless PURECONTROL is whether or not they're comfortable. And if I'm completely honest with you guys, and I think if a lot of people are honest with themselves, when you put this shoe on for the first time, you're not going to get the impression that this is a major improvement over a shoe with laces. It has a stiff feel. It's a little bit difficult to get on. It does feel a little bit awkward. It doesn't have that natural sensation that I think a lot of people might expect given the knitted upper and just the general look of the shoe. Like I said, it's a lot stiffer than you might expect, especially from right out of the box. Is that to say that you can't get a comfortable fit out of them? Absolutely not. They seem to fit me pretty well, and once they're well broken in, they actually can be quite comfortable. But will they be comfortable for everybody? No, it really depends on how well they fit you. If they don't fit you properly from right out of the box, you're likely never going to get a comfortable fit out of them. It's not so much a break-in process with this particular shoe, it's just getting used to how it wraps your foot, because like I said, there's no adjustability. The way it fits is the way it'll fit forever. So is it a comfortable shoe? It can be, but for certain people, it won't be. Another question that a lot of people have been asking is, are these shoes unstable? Is there a lot of rollover and movement inside of the shoe when you're making quick cuts and changes of direction? And the answer to that question is no, it's not bad if they fit you properly, but if they don't fit you properly, you're going to have a lot of issues. Like I mentioned in my original video on these things, it's super, super important that you buy them with no extra space whatsoever. So as you guys can see, there is no extra space. I'm right at the end of this shoe, and that's exactly how you want them to fit. And even then, based on the shape of your foot and just how the shoe fits you in general, you might not have the greatest fit even after that. So again, everyone's going to have a different experience with this shoe. For me personally, they seem to fit me pretty well. Again, there is some discomfort in the heel, but for the most part, when you make those quick cuts and change of direction, there is some decent structure to the lateral side of the shoe. Again, when you bend your foot a lot, the upper does kind of separate in the forefoot area, so you get a little bit of instability in that regard. But for the most part, being that this is a laceless design and with a knitted upper, the stability is honestly not all that bad. All right, guys, that is it for the things you should know about the Adidas A16 Plus PURECONTROL. If you guys have any further questions regarding this particular shoe, be sure to leave them down below in the comment section. Again, this is a brand new series, so if you enjoyed it, want to perhaps see it continue on the channel, be sure to support it with a like. And if you have any suggestions regarding this series as well, leave those down below in the comment section too, and I'll be happy to take a look at what you guys have to say. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $300 retail price. If you guys aren't subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.